My husband DeAndre surprised me with a romantic candlelit dinner on our 5th anniversary, complete with my favorite lobster bisque. But when our housekeeper accidentally ate my portion instead, she collapsed within an hour, blood pouring from her mouth as her body convulsed on our kitchen floor. I stood there frozen, watching my husband's face drain of color, and in that horrifying moment, I understood the truth. That dinner wasn't a celebration of our love. It was supposed to be my last meal, and the woman dying in front of me had taken my place. Did that opening grab your attention? I'm sharing a true story today about love, betrayal, and a husband's dark secret. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from, and please subscribe to hear more real stories like this. Now, let me take you back to where everything started falling apart. That morning of our 5th anniversary, I woke up feeling queasy again, the same nausea that had been plaguing me for the past 2 months. I was 12 weeks pregnant, though I hadn't told DeAndre yet. I wanted to surprise him that evening with the news, maybe present him with the ultrasound photo over dessert. How naive I was, thinking a baby would bring us closer when he was already planning to bury me. I lay in our king-sized bed in our Decatur home, hand resting on my still flat belly, whispering to the tiny life growing inside me. My baby, my miracle baby after years of trying and 2 heartbreaking miscarriages. This one felt different, stronger. This one was going to make it. Or so I thought, before I learned what kind of monster I had married. The morning sunlight filtered through our cream-colored curtains, casting soft shadows across the room DeAndre and I had decorated together when we first bought this house 3 years ago. Back then, we were so happy, or at least I thought we were. He was a successful investment banker at Crawford & Associates, pulling in nearly $300,000 a year, while I ran my own small catering business that I'd built from scratch. We were the couple everyone envied, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out. But somewhere along the way, everything had changed, and I was too blind to see it, until it was almost too late. I heard DeAndre moving around downstairs in the kitchen, which was unusual. My husband never cooked. He barely made toast without burning it. Curious, I pulled on my robe and headed down the stairs, my stomach churning with morning sickness. The smell of cooking seafood hit me like a wave, and I had to grip the banister to keep from gagging. "Baby, you okay?" DeAndre called out, appearing at the bottom of the stairs with a dish towel over his shoulder and a smile that seemed just a bit too wide, too eager. He was dressed in his expensive casual wear, Ralph Lauren polo shirt and designer jeans, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. My handsome husband with his smooth, dark skin, athletic build, and that megawatt smile that had first attracted me at a networking event 6 years ago. Just a little dizzy, I managed, deciding this wasn't the moment to tell him about the pregnancy. Something felt off about his behavior, a brittleness to his cheerfulness that set my nerves on edge. "What are you doing in the kitchen?" He took my hand and led me to the dining room, where the table was set beautifully with our wedding china, crystal glasses, and a vase of red roses in the center. "It's our anniversary, Shanice. 5 years of marriage to the most amazing woman in the world. I wanted to do something special, so I'm making your favorite, lobster bisque from scratch." Well, mostly from scratch. I had to watch like 6 YouTube videos to figure it out. He laughed, that deep, rumbling laugh I used to love, but today it sounded hollow, performative. "You remembered lobster bisque is my favorite?" I said, genuinely touched despite my unease. In the past year, DeAndre had seemed so distant, always working late, always on his phone, barely present even when he was home. This sudden attention felt like the husband I used to know, the one who used to bring me coffee in bed and leave love notes on the bathroom mirror. Of course I remembered. I remember everything about you, baby. Now you go rest, stay off your feet. You've been working too hard with that catering business. Let me take care of you today. He kissed my forehead, his lips lingering just a moment too long, and I felt a chill run down my spine despite the warmth of his touch. There was something in his eyes when he pulled away, something I couldn't quite name. Fear? Guilt? Determination? I couldn't tell, but it made my skin prickle with instinctive warning. I went back upstairs and sat on the bed, trying to shake off the strange feeling. Maybe I was just hormonal from the pregnancy. Maybe I was being paranoid because my best friend Keisha had just gone through a nasty divorce, and it had made me suspicious of all men, even my own husband. I picked up my phone and saw a text from Keisha. "Happy anniversary, girl. Y'all doing anything special? Tell DeAndre he better be treating my best friend like the queen she is." I started to text back, but then I heard DeAndre on the phone downstairs, his voice rising and falling in what sounded like an argument. I crept to the top of the stairs, not quite eavesdropping, but not quite not eavesdropping either. "I told you it's handled," he was saying, his voice tight with stress. "Yes, today. By tonight it'll all be over and we can move forward with the plan. Just make sure everything is ready on your end." Silence as he listened. "I don't care how you feel about it. We're too deep in now to back out. She's been suspicious lately, asking questions about the accounts. It's now or never." My heart started pounding. What accounts? What plan? Who was he talking to? I wanted to storm down there and demand answers, but something told me to stay quiet, to observe. If DeAndre was hiding something, confronting him directly would just make him lie better. I needed to know the truth first. An hour later, DeAndre called me down for lunch. "The bisque is ready, baby. Come see what your husband made for you." I walked into the dining room and gasped. He really had gone all out. Candles were lit despite it being midday. Soft jazz played from the speakers, and 2 steaming bowls of creamy orange bisque sat at our places, garnished with fresh herbs and a drizzle of cream. It looked and smelled incredible, like something from a 5-star restaurant. "DeAndre, this is beautiful." I meant it. Whatever was going on, he clearly had put effort into this meal. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he really was just trying to reconnect with me. Maybe that phone call was about a surprise he was planning, not something sinister. "Only the best for my wife," he said, pulling out my chair with a flourish. But as I moved to sit down, another wave of nausea hit me hard. The smell of the rich seafood soup, usually my favorite, was overwhelming to my pregnant stomach. I felt bile rising in my throat and knew I was about to throw up. "Oh God, I'm sorry, I need a minute," I gasped, covering my mouth and rushing toward the bathroom. Behind me, I heard DeAndre say something sharp under his breath, a curse word maybe, and when I glanced back, his face was twisted with frustration and something darker. Anger? Why would he be angry that I felt sick? But I didn't have time to analyze it because I was already in the bathroom, emptying my stomach into the toilet. When I came back out, pale and shaky, our housekeeper, Mrs. Alicia, was in the dining room, and I heard her voice from the kitchen. Mrs. Alicia had been with us for 2 years, a sweet 60-year-old Jamaican woman who came 3 times a week to clean and occasionally cook. She was more like family than an employee, always fussing over me like I was her own daughter. "Mr. DeAndre, this soup smells so good. You really made this yourself? Lord have mercy, Shanice is a lucky woman. My husband never cooked me nothing but cereal." She laughed her big, hearty laugh that usually made me smile. Today, it made me anxious for reasons I couldn't explain. I walked into the kitchen and saw Mrs. Alicia standing at the counter, holding my bowl of bisque. DeAndre was across from her, and the expression on his face was pure panic, quickly masked with a smile. "Mrs. Alicia, that's for Shanice. Put it back, please," he said, his voice tight. "Oh, I know, baby. I was just smelling it. Smells like the bisque they serve at that fancy restaurant on Peachtree. You did good." But as she went to set it down, the bowl slipped slightly in her hands, and a few drops splashed onto the counter. "Oh, shoot, let me clean that up," she muttered, grabbing a towel. "Actually, Mrs. Alicia," I heard myself say, the words coming from some deep, instinctive place, "I'm feeling too sick to eat right now. My stomach is just not cooperating today. Would you like to have that bowl? It seems a shame to waste it when DeAndre worked so hard." The change in DeAndre's face was instantaneous and terrifying. For just a split second, his mask dropped completely, and I saw raw fear and fury flash across his features. "No, he said sharply, too sharply, reaching for the bowl. She can't. I made it specifically for you, with your dietary preferences. Mrs. Alicia might be allergic to something in it. Allergic? To what? Mrs. Alicia asked, looking confused. I eat everything. Only thing I can't have is shellfish, but this is lobster, and I've had lobster before. It has other ingredients, DeAndre insisted, his voice rising. Shanice, just take a few bites. You need to eat something. You said you were dizzy earlier. But I was watching him carefully now, seeing how desperate he was for me to eat that specific bowl of soup, and how horrified he was at the thought of Mrs. Alicia eating it instead. Every instinct in my body was screaming danger. I really can't, baby. I'll throw up again. Mrs. Alicia, please have it. I insist. You've been working so hard today. Before DeAndre could stop her, Mrs. Alicia picked up the bowl and took a large spoonful, smiling with pleasure. This is delicious. Mr. DeAndre, you missed your calling. You should have been a chef. She took another spoonful, then another, humming happily. DeAndre stood there frozen, his face ashen, watching her eat with an expression of absolute horror. He looked like he was watching someone sign their own death warrant, and that's when I knew with bone-deep certainty that something was very, very wrong with that soup. I need to go lie down, I said quietly, backing away from both of them. DeAndre, can you come upstairs with me for a minute? I needed to get him away from Mrs. Alicia, needed to figure out what was happening. But he didn't move, just stood there staring at Mrs. Alicia as she finished the last of the soup, wiping her mouth with satisfaction. That hit the spot. Thank you, baby girl. Now let me go finish that bathroom upstairs. She bustled out of the kitchen, still humming, completely unaware that she had just eaten something that might kill her. I looked at my husband, this man I had loved for 6 years, married for 5, and I didn't recognize him. What did you do? What did you put in that soup? I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice was shaking and sweat was beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. You're being paranoid. It's just soup. Then why did you look like that when Mrs. Alicia ate it? Why are you sweating? What's in it, DeAndre? Before he could answer, we heard a thud from upstairs, followed by a scream that chilled my blood. We both ran for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. Mrs. Alicia was on the bathroom floor, convulsing violently, foam and blood pouring from her mouth. Her eyes had rolled back in her head and her body was jerking like she was being electrocuted. Oh God, I heard myself saying over and over as I dropped to my knees beside her. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. I need an ambulance right now. My housekeeper is having a seizure and bleeding from her mouth. She ate soup about 20 minutes ago. Please hurry. DeAndre stood in the doorway, and when I looked up at him, I saw tears streaming down his face. But they weren't tears of concern for Mrs. Alicia. They were tears of rage and frustration, and his eyes, when they met mine, were filled with pure hatred. Why didn't you eat it? He whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear him over Mrs. Alicia's gurgling gasps. Why couldn't you just eat the damn soup, Shanice? The paramedics arrived within 8 minutes, though it felt like 8 hours watching Mrs. Alicia convulse on our bathroom floor. They worked on her with urgent efficiency, asking rapid questions about what she had ingested, checking her vitals, starting an IV line. One of them, a sharp-eyed woman named Detective Paramedic Rodriguez, looked at the blood and foam coming from Mrs. Alicia's mouth and immediately said, "This looks like poisoning. We need to bag any food or drink she consumed in the last hour." I pointed toward the kitchen with a shaking hand. "She ate lobster bisque. My husband made it. The bowl is still down there." Rodriguez gave her partner a significant look and spoke into her radio. "Dispatch, we need police backup at this location. Possible poisoning case. Secure the scene." As they loaded Mrs. Alicia onto the stretcher, her body still jerking with seizures, I grabbed Rodriguez's arm. "Will she survive? Please tell me she'll be okay." Rodriguez's face was grave. Her vitals are extremely unstable. Whatever she ingested has caused severe neurological damage and internal bleeding. We're doing everything we can, but you need to prepare yourself. And ma'am, don't touch anything in that kitchen. The police will want to test everything. I watched them carry Mrs. Alicia down our stairs, her kind face now slack and unrecognizable, blood trailing behind them on our cream carpet. DeAndre stood at the top of the stairs, phone in his hand, and I heard him whisper urgently to someone, "It went wrong. Call Thompson. I need a lawyer right now." That's when I knew for certain my husband had tried to murder me, and now an innocent woman was dying because of his evil plan. 2 Atlanta police officers arrived within 15 minutes, followed shortly by 2 detectives. The lead detective was a tall black woman in her 40s named Detective Nia Patterson, with intelligent eyes and an air of authority that commanded respect. Her partner was Detective Marcus Webb, a stocky white man with a notebook and a skeptical expression. They separated DeAndre and me immediately, taking our statements in different rooms. I sat in our living room with Detective Patterson, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea I couldn't drink, and told her everything. How DeAndre had been distant for months, how he'd suddenly made my favorite meal despite never cooking, how desperate he'd been for me to eat that specific bowl of soup, how his face had transformed into rage when Mrs. Alicia ate it instead, how he whispered those chilling words, "Why didn't you eat it?" Detective Patterson listened intently, taking notes, her expression growing grimmer with each detail. "Mrs. Richardson, is there any reason your husband would want to harm you? Financial problems? Life insurance? Another woman?" I felt my throat tighten. I don't know about another woman, but there is money involved. A lot of it. My grandmother passed away 6 months ago and left me her entire estate in a trust. $4 million, plus properties in Savannah and Charleston. The trust was structured so that if I die before age 35, everything goes to my legal spouse. I'm 32. Detective Patterson's pen stopped moving. $4 million is a powerful motive. And your husband knew about this inheritance? Yes, he was actually upset that my grandmother left it all to me and not to both of us jointly. He said it showed she didn't respect our marriage. We had several arguments about it. I paused, a memory surfacing that made my blood run cold. Oh my God, 3 weeks ago, DeAndre asked me to update my will. He said with all this new money, we needed to make sure our affairs were in order. He even brought home papers from his lawyer friend. I signed them because I trusted him. I trusted him completely. Detective Patterson leaned forward. "Do you know what was in those documents?" He said it was just a standard will leaving everything to each other, the way married couples do. But now I'm wondering what I actually signed. She made a note. "We'll need to see those documents immediately. Mrs. Richardson, I need to ask you something important. Is there any chance you're pregnant?" I gasped. "How did you know?" "Because poisoning attempts on women often coincide with pregnancy. A child complicates inheritance, custody, divorce settlements. If your husband wanted you dead for your money, a baby would make that plan much more difficult." She paused. "How far along are you?" 12 weeks. I haven't told DeAndre yet. I was going to tell him today at this anniversary dinner. I started crying then, great heaving sobs as the full horror crashed over me. He was going to kill me and our baby that we tried so hard for. What kind of monster does that? Detective Patterson handed me tissues and waited for me to compose myself. "Mrs. Richardson, Shanice, I need you to listen to me carefully. You are in danger. Even if we arrest your husband today, he may have accomplices. You mentioned he was on the phone talking about a plan with someone. Do you have somewhere safe you can stay? Family? Friends?" "My best friend Keisha. She lives in Marietta. I can go there." "Good. Pack a bag. Detective Webb will escort you. Don't take anything your husband could have tampered with. No food, no drinks, no vitamins or medications. Start fresh. And Shanice, don't tell your husband where you're going." In our bedroom, with Detective Webb standing guard at the door, I threw clothes into a doofcase with shaking hands. As I opened my nightstand drawer to grab my passport and important documents, I found something that made me freeze. A folder hidden under some magazines labeled life insurance policies. I pulled it out and my heart nearly stopped. Inside were 3 life insurance policies on me, each one taken out within the past 6 months, each one with DeAndre as the sole beneficiary. The first was for $1 million, the second for $2 million, the third for $3 million, $6 million total, in addition to the $4 million inheritance, 10 million reasons to murder your wife. But what made it even worse was the dates. Each policy was taken out right after I signed those will documents DeAndre brought home. I was signing my own death warrant, policy after policy, while my husband smiled and told me it was just responsible financial planning. "Detective Webb," I called out, my voice barely above a whisper, "you need to see this." He walked over and looked at the policies, his face darkening. "Did you know about these?" I thought I was signing one joint life insurance policy, not 3 separate policies on just my life. He forged my signature or tricked me. I don't even remember going to any medical exams. And don't you need those for large policies? Usually, yes, unless your husband falsified the medical records too, or knew someone who could push these through without proper screening. This is premeditated, calculated murder for profit. Mrs. Richardson, pack faster. You need to get out of this house, now. Downstairs, I could hear DeAndre talking to Detective Patterson, his voice smooth and concerned, the perfect worried husband. "Officer, I don't understand what my wife is accusing me of. I made her favorite meal to celebrate our anniversary. I would never hurt Shanice. I love her. This must be some kind of misunderstanding, or maybe food contamination from the store where I bought the lobster. You should be testing the supplier, not interrogating me." Detective Patterson's response was cool. "Mr. Richardson, we'll be testing everything, including the remainder of that bisque you prepared. We'll also be examining your financial records, your phone records, and any recent communications. If this was accidental food poisoning, as you claim, you have nothing to worry about. But if forensics finds something else, something deliberately added to that soup, then we'll be having a very different conversation." "I want my lawyer," DeAndre said immediately. "I'm not answering any more questions without legal representation." "That's your right," Patterson said. "But let me make something very clear, Mr. Richardson. A woman is fighting for her life at Grady Memorial right now because she ate food you prepared. If she dies, you're looking at murder charges. If she survives and our investigation proves this was intentional, you're looking at attempted murder. Either way, I suggest you think very carefully about your next moves." I came down the stairs with my bag, Detective Webb behind me. DeAndre saw me and his entire demeanor changed. His smooth facade cracked and something ugly showed through. "Where are you going? Shanice, don't leave. We need to talk about this. You're making a huge mistake." "The only mistake I made was marrying you," I said, surprised by the strength in my own voice. "I trusted you. I loved you. And you tried to kill me and our baby." His eyes widened. "Baby? You're pregnant?" For a moment, I saw genuine shock on his face, followed quickly by calculation. I could practically see his mind working, trying to figure out how this changed his plans. "Yes, I'm pregnant. 12 weeks. I was going to tell you today, surprise you with the ultrasound photo, but instead I found out my husband is a murderer." "I'm not a murderer," he said, his voice rising. "This is all a misunderstanding. The soup was fine. That woman must have had an allergic reaction or a medical condition we didn't know about. Shanice, please, don't let these cops turn you against me." Detective Patterson stepped between us. "Mr. Richardson, step back. Mrs. Richardson is free to leave whenever she chooses. I suggest you focus on finding that lawyer because the crime scene technicians are about to tear this kitchen apart looking for evidence, and something tells me they're going to find exactly what they're looking for." As Detective Webb escorted me to his unmarked car, I looked back at my house, the beautiful craftsman home in Decatur that DeAndre and I had bought together, where we'd made love and laughed and planned our future. It looked the same as it had this morning, with its blue shutters and blooming azaleas in the front garden, but everything had changed. My marriage was a lie, my husband was a monster, and I was running for my life. At Keisha's apartment in Marietta, she opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into her arms. "Oh, honey, what happened? You sounded terrified on the phone." I collapsed on her couch and told her everything, the words pouring out between sobs. The soup, Mrs. Alicia, the insurance policies, DeAndre's confession that I wasn't supposed to survive today. Keisha listened with growing horror, her hand covering her mouth. "I knew something was off with him," she said when I finished. "Remember 2 months ago at that barbecue when I saw him texting someone and smiling? He hid his phone when I walked by. I told you then I had a bad feeling." "I did, and I defended him. I said you were just bitter because of your divorce and seeing problems where there weren't any. I'm so sorry I didn't listen." "Don't apologize. He fooled everyone, not just you. Shanice, this man is dangerous. You can't go back there. You can't have any contact with him." My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Shanice, this is Detective Patterson. I'm texting from my personal phone. We got preliminary results from the bisque. High levels of antifreeze, ethylene glycol. It's a common murder method because it's sweet and can be masked in food. Your husband didn't just poison that soup, he made it lethal. If you had eaten it, you would have died within hours, painfully. Mrs. Alicia is in critical condition. We're arresting DeAndre Richardson on charges of attempted murder. Stay where you are and stay safe." I showed the text to Keisha and she went pale. "Antifreeze? Jesus Christ, Shanice, that's not a crime of passion. That's cold-blooded, premeditated murder. He planned this." Another text came through, this time from DeAndre's number. "Baby, please answer my calls. The police are here with a warrant. They're arresting me. This is all a misunderstanding. I need you to tell them you're confused, that you misunderstood what I said. We can fix this. Don't let them destroy our marriage. Think about our baby. Don't you want your child to have a father?" I stared at the message, fury building in my chest. He was trying to manipulate me even now, using my pregnancy as leverage, pretending to care about a child he had tried to kill just hours ago. I typed back with steady fingers. "You tried to murder me and our baby for insurance money. I found the policies, all 3 of them. I found the folder hidden in the nightstand. The police have the poisoned soup, they have the evidence, and they have my testimony. You're done, DeAndre. Sign the divorce papers when you get them, because I never want to see your face again." His response came immediately. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. You think you can just walk away with everything? That inheritance was supposed to be ours. I worked for it too, dealing with your rich, judgmental grandmother who never thought I was good enough for you. I earned that money. Without me, you're nothing. You were a struggling caterer when I met you. I made you who you are." I showed Keisha the message and she grabbed the phone. "This is evidence of his motive. Screenshot everything. Save every message. That idiot is confessing via text." She was right. DeAndre was unraveling, his mask completely off now, revealing the greedy, entitled monster underneath. Another message. "I'm getting out on bail. My lawyer says they don't have enough to hold me. I'll be home tomorrow. We need to talk, face to face. Don't hide from me, Shanice. I'm still your husband. You still belong to me." That last line made my blood run cold. I called Detective Patterson immediately. She answered on the first ring. "Detective, he's threatening me. He says he's getting bail, that he'll be out tomorrow, that I belong to him. Can he actually get out?" Detective Patterson's voice was tense. Unfortunately, yes. His lawyer is arguing that since Mrs. Alicia is still alive, this is only attempted murder, and with his clean record and community ties, the judge may grant bail. But Shanice, listen to me. You need to file a restraining order first thing tomorrow morning. I'll help you with the paperwork. And whatever you do, don't go back to that house. Not alone, not ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Keisha's guest room, hand on my belly, whispering to my baby, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't see what he was. But I promise you, I will protect you. He will never hurt you. We're going to be okay." But I didn't feel okay. I felt terrified and betrayed and so incredibly stupid for not seeing the signs. How long had DeAndre been planning this? Had he ever loved me? Or was I always just a means to an end, a paycheck he could collect by killing me? At 3 a.m., my phone lit up with a call from Grady Memorial. My heart dropped. "Mrs. Richardson, this is Dr. Chen from the ICU. I'm calling about Alicia Martinez. I'm sorry to inform you that despite our best efforts, Mrs. Martinez passed away 20 minutes ago. The poisoning caused complete organ failure. She didn't suffer at the end. I'm very sorry for your loss." I hung up and sobbed into my pillow. Sweet, kind Mrs. Alicia with her big laugh and her motherly fussing was gone. She had died in my place, eaten the poison meant for me, and now she was gone. A grandmother, a mother, a wife, dead because she happened to be hungry and my husband was evil. The next morning, Detective Patterson called. "Shanice, I have updates and none of them are good. First, the judge granted DeAndre bail, $250,000, which his parents posted. He's out. Second, with Mrs. Martinez's death, we've upgraded the charges to felony murder and attempted murder of you. But third, and this is crucial, we found something during the search of your home. Your husband had been researching untraceable poisons for months. His browser history shows dozens of searches about antifreeze poisoning, how to mask the taste, lethal doses, how long it takes to kill someone. He also researched how to fake grief, how to act at a spouse's funeral, and how to access life insurance payouts quickly. This was not impulsive. He's been planning your murder for at least 6 months, probably since your grandmother died and you inherited. I felt nauseous, and for once it wasn't morning sickness. 6 months? He's been smiling at me, sleeping next to me, making love to me, all while planning how to kill me? What kind of person does that? "A sociopath," Patterson said bluntly. "And Shanice, there's one more thing. We pulled his phone records. He's been having an affair. A woman named Jasmine Taylor works as a real estate agent. They've been seeing each other for over a year. We brought her in for questioning this morning and she had no idea about the murder plot, but she did confirm that DeAndre told her he'd be filing for divorce soon and coming into a large amount of money. He promised to marry her and buy them a house in Buckhead. So there it was. Another woman. Of course there was. He was going to kill me, collect $10 million, and start a new life with his mistress while I was in the ground. "I need to see her," I said. "This Jasmine. I need to look her in the eye and ask her if she knew what he was planning." "That's not a good idea," Patterson started, but I cut her off. "Please, I need to know if she knew, if she helped him. I need to understand who my husband really is, who he surrounded himself with. Please, Detective." Detective Patterson finally agreed to let me meet Jasmine Taylor, but only under controlled circumstances, at the police station with officers present. 2 days after Mrs. Alicia's death, I walked into that interrogation room and came face to face with the woman my husband had chosen to replace me. Jasmine was beautiful in an obvious way, with long weave down to her waist, perfectly done makeup, designer clothes that screamed money, and a body that she clearly worked hard to maintain. She was everything I wasn't, polished and glamorous where I was natural and understated. When she saw me, her confident expression faltered. She looked me up and down, taking in my simple jeans and sweater, my bare face with dark circles under my eyes from sleepless nights, my hand resting protectively on my small baby bump. "You're Shanice," she said quietly, and I heard genuine surprise in her voice. "You're not what I expected." "What did DeAndre tell you about me?" I asked, sitting down across from her. Detective Patterson stood in the corner, watching us both carefully. Jasmine shifted uncomfortably. "He said you were cold, controlling, that you trapped him in a loveless marriage. He said you cared more about your business than him, that you refused to have kids because you were too focused on your career. He made you sound like some kind of ice queen who used him for his money and connections." I felt a bitter laugh escape my throat. That's interesting, considering I'm 12 weeks pregnant with his child, a child we tried for years to conceive. And I never used him for anything. If anything, he used me. But let me ask you something, Jasmine. Did he tell you about the $4 million I inherited from my grandmother 6 months ago? Her eyes widened. $4 million? No, he said he was the one with family money, that you came from nothing and he supported your little catering business. My little catering business makes $300,000 a year, and I built it from scratch. DeAndre told me you knew about his plan to divorce me. Did he mention how he was planning to divorce me? Jasmine shook her head, looking increasingly uncomfortable. He just said he'd be free soon, that he'd handle everything and we could be together. He was looking at houses for us, expensive ones in Buckhead. He said money wouldn't be an issue. Money wouldn't be an issue because he was planning to murder me and collect $10 million from my inheritance and life insurance policies, I said, watching her face carefully. He tried to poison me with antifreeze and my anniversary dinner. An innocent woman ate it instead and died. Did you know about any of that, Jasmine? The color drained from her face completely. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. What? No. Oh my God, no. Murder? He said he was getting a divorce. Just a normal divorce. I didn't know anything about poison or insurance or killing anyone. You have to believe me. Detective Patterson stepped forward. Miss Taylor, we've examined your phone records and financial statements. We found no evidence that you were involved in the murder plot. However, we did find that Mr. Richardson gave you expensive gifts, took you on trips to Miami and Las Vegas, and paid for your new BMW, all while married to Mrs. Richardson. Where did you think that money was coming from? Jasmine sat back down, tears running down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. I thought he had investments, family money. I thought he was rich. Oh God, I'm so stupid. I'm the other woman in a murder plot and I didn't even know it. She looked at me with something like horror. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was married at first. He didn't wear a ring. He said he was single. By the time I found out the truth, I was already in too deep. He said he loved me, that he'd chosen me, that his marriage was already over. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. I stared at this woman who had slept with my husband, who had accepted his gifts and promises while I worked myself to exhaustion building our future. Part of me wanted to hate her, to blame her for destroying my marriage. But looking at her now, crying and scared, I realized she was another one of DeAndre's victims, not as directly as me or Mrs. Alicia, but victim nonetheless. Did he ever seem violent? Did he ever hurt you or threaten you? She wiped her eyes, thinking. No, never violent, but he could be cold sometimes, like he'd turn his emotions on and off like a switch. When he was with me, he was charming and romantic, but sometimes I'd catch him on the phone and his voice would be completely different, hard and calculating, and he lied constantly, little lies about where he'd been or who he'd talked to. I knew he was lying, but I didn't care because I thought I was special, that he lied to everyone but me. Pause. There was one thing though. About a month ago, we were looking at houses online and I asked how he was going to afford a $2 million house. He smiled and said, "Let's just say I'm expecting a significant windfall very soon. Within 6 months, I'll have more money than we could spend in a lifetime." I thought he meant some business deal or investment. Now I realized he meant your death. Detective Patterson took notes of everything. Miss Taylor, you're not being charged with any crime at this time, but we may need you to testify at trial. Mr. Richardson told you about expecting money soon, and that statement establishes premeditation and motive. After Jasmine left, looking shaken and small, Detective Patterson sat down next to me. Are you okay? That couldn't have been easy. She's not the villain I wanted her to be, I admitted. I wanted to walk in there and see some evil seductress who plotted with DeAndre to kill me. Instead, I saw a naive woman who got played just like I did. He's good at this, isn't he? At manipulating people, making them believe what he wants them to believe. Sociopaths usually are, Patterson said. They're master manipulators. They study people and tell them exactly what they want to hear. DeAndre told you that you were his soulmate, his partner for life. He told Jasmine she was the love of his life, the woman he'd been waiting for. Both lies, both designed to get him what he wanted. You were a paycheck. She was entertainment and an alibi. Neither of you were real people to him, just tools. That night, back at Keisha's apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about DeAndre's transformation. When had the man I loved become a monster? Or had he always been this way, and I was just too blind to see it? I pulled out my laptop and started going through our old photos, looking for clues I'd missed. There was our wedding day, DeAndre in his tuxedo looking handsome and happy. But now that I looked closer, I could see his smile didn't quite reach his eyes when he looked at me. In photo after photo, I saw the same thing, a performance of happiness rather than real joy. Then I found something that made my blood run cold, a photo from my grandmother's funeral taken by my cousin. I was in the front row, sobbing, devastated by her death, and in the background, slightly out of focus, was DeAndre. He wasn't crying or even looking sad. He was on his phone, smiling at something on the screen. I zoomed in as much as the resolution allowed. The date on the photo was 6 months ago, the same day my grandmother died. I checked my phone records from that day and found that DeAndre had made multiple calls to a number I didn't recognize. I ran the number through a reverse lookup site, and my heart stopped. It was an insurance company, the same one that issued the first life insurance policy on me. He had been calling about life insurance while I buried my grandmother, while I grieved the woman who raised me after my parents died. He'd been planning my murder literally at her funeral. My phone rang, making me jump. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Shanice. It was DeAndre's voice, soft and familiar and sending chills down my spine. How did you get this number? I blocked you. I have my ways, baby. We need to talk. You're making a huge mistake listening to those detectives. They're trying to destroy us, destroy our marriage. Everything I did was for us, for our future. You tried to kill me, I said, my voice shaking with rage. You poisoned my food. You murdered Mrs. Alicia. You took out secret life insurance policies on me. Nothing about that was for us. It was for you and your mistress. He laughed, actually laughed. Jasmine? She was nothing, just entertainment while you were always busy with your business. I was lonely, Shanice. You neglected me. What was I supposed to do? Not commit murder would have been a good start, I shot back. What do you want, DeAndre? Why are you calling me? His voice changed, became harder. I want you to think very carefully about testifying against me. You're carrying my child. That makes you my wife in the eyes of the law, and under spousal privilege, you can't be forced to testify about certain conversations we had. If you refuse to cooperate with the prosecution, their case falls apart. No testimony, no conviction. I walk free, we work through our problems, and we raise our baby together like a family. You're insane. I'm not protecting you. You tried to kill our baby. Did I, though? His voice was oily, manipulative. Or did I make a romantic dinner that unfortunately got contaminated somehow? Maybe the lobster was bad. Maybe someone else tampered with it. There's reasonable doubt everywhere, Shanice, and without your testimony, they can't prove intent. Think about it. Think about our child growing up without a father. Think about the shame of being known as the woman whose husband is in prison. Think about how hard it'll be to raise a baby alone. Or you could give me another chance, drop the charges, and we could start over. I'll go to therapy, we'll rebuild trust, and we'll be a family. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was delusional if he thought I'd ever trust him again, but instead an idea came to me. "Are you recording this call?" I asked Detective Patterson, who had been listening on speaker. She nodded and held up her phone, recording light blinking. I smiled and turned back to DeAndre. "Let me think about it. You're right that it would be hard to raise a baby alone, and maybe there was a misunderstanding about the soup." I could practically hear him smiling through the phone. "That's my girl. I knew you'd see reason. We're good together, Shanice. We always have been. This is just a rough patch. Just one question, though," I continued sweetly. "If I agree to reconcile and drop the charges, what happens to Jasmine? Will you cut her off completely?" There was a long pause. "Of course, she was a mistake. You're my wife, the mother of my child. She means nothing." "And the life insurance policies? Why did you need 3 of them if you weren't planning anything?" Another pause, longer this time. "That was just financial planning, baby. We're wealthy now with your inheritance. Wealthy people carry large insurance policies. It's normal." "But you didn't tell me about them. Why hide it if it was normal?" "I didn't hide them, I just hadn't gotten around to mentioning them yet. You've been so busy with the catering business and being pregnant, I didn't want to bother you with paperwork." His voice was getting tighter, more irritated. I was pushing him and he didn't like it. "And the antifreeze in the soup, how do you explain that?" "I don't know how it got there," he snapped. "Maybe someone broke in and tampered with the food. Maybe it was an accident at the factory where I bought the ingredients. I don't know, Shanice, but I didn't put it there. You have to believe me." "But you researched antifreeze poisoning for months. Your browser history shows it. You looked up lethal doses, how to mask the taste, how long it takes to kill someone. Why would you research that if you weren't planning to use it?" Silence. Long, dangerous silence. When he spoke again, his voice was ice cold. "You're recording this, you manipulative bitch. You're working with the cops. I should have known you couldn't be trusted. You're just like your grandmother, cold-hearted and greedy." "No, DeAndre," I said quietly. "I'm nothing like you. I never tried to murder someone I claimed to love. I never valued money more than human life. And I will testify against you. I will tell the jury everything. How you isolated me from my friends, how you pressured me to sign documents I didn't understand, how you tried to poison me and killed an innocent woman instead. You're going to prison for the rest of your life, and our child will grow up knowing their father was a murderer who tried to kill their mother." He exploded. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure you get nothing. I'll drag you through court for years. I'll ruin you, Shanice. That money should be mine. I earned it dealing with your stuck-up family. You owe me." "The only thing I owe you is justice for Mrs. Alicia," I said and hung up. Detective Patterson stopped the recording and smiled grimly. "That was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. You just provoked a dangerous man." "But we got his confession on tape. He admitted to researching the poison, to having motive, to everything." "Not quite a confession, but close enough. His lawyers will try to suppress it, claim you entrapped him, but combined with all our other evidence, it helps build the case. Shanice, you need to be very careful now. DeAndre knows you're cooperating fully with the prosecution. Men like him don't like losing control." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. I opened it and felt my blood turn to ice. It was a photo of me, taken that morning as I left Keisha's apartment. The angle suggested someone had been watching from across the street. The message below read, "I'm always watching. You can't hide from me. We're bound together forever, till death do us part, and death might come sooner than you think, my dear wife." I showed it to Detective Patterson, and she immediately called for a patrol car to be stationed outside Keisha's building. "He's escalating. This is a direct threat. I'm going to have the judge revoke his bail based on witness intimidation." But 2 hours later, she called back with bad news. His lawyer argued the text came from an unknown number and can't be definitively tied to DeAndre. Without proof he sent it, the judge won't revoke bail. But Shanice, you need to consider protective custody, or at least moving to a safe house. This man knows where you're staying." That night, I lay in bed at Keisha's apartment, listening to every sound, jumping at every creak. Somewhere out there in the Atlanta night, my husband was free, watching me, planning his next move, and I was trapped, unable to go home, unable to feel safe, waiting for the trial that would determine whether justice would be served or whether DeAndre would walk free to try again. My phone buzzed one more time. Another unknown number, another message. "Sleep tight, Shanice. Sweet dreams. I'll see you very soon." 3 months later, I sat in the Fulton County Courthouse. 6 months pregnant now, my belly round and prominent under a conservative blue dress. The trial of State of Georgia versus DeAndre Richardson had finally begun, and the courtroom was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and Mrs. Alicia's grieving family. Her husband, Mr. Roberto Martinez, sat in the front row with their 3 adult children, all of them staring at DeAndre with hatred in their eyes. DeAndre sat at the defense table in an expensive suit, looking calm and confident, every inch the successful banker he pretended to be. His lawyer, Marcus Thompson, was one of Atlanta's best, a silver-haired man known for getting wealthy clients acquitted. DeAndre's parents had mortgaged their house to afford him, still believing their son was innocent despite all the evidence. When DeAndre's eyes met mine, he smiled slightly, a cruel smile that said he still thought he could win. The prosecutor was Assistant District Attorney Nicole Hampton, a brilliant black woman in her 40s who had never lost a murder case. She stood to give her opening statement, and the courtroom fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about greed, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. The defendant, DeAndre Richardson, made a calculated decision to murder his wife, Shanice Richardson, for $10 million in life insurance and inheritance money. He researched methods for months. He carefully planned every detail. He bought the poison, mixed it into her favorite meal, and served it to her on their 5th wedding anniversary with a smile on his face. The only reason Shanice Richardson is alive today to testify is because an innocent woman, Alicia Martinez, ate that poisoned food by accident. Mrs. Martinez died in agony, her organs shutting down from antifreeze poisoning, while the defendant watched in horror, not because an innocent person was dying, but because his plan had failed." She paused, letting that sink in. "Over the next week, you will hear testimony from detectives, forensic experts, the defendant's own mistress, and from Shanice Richardson herself. You will see the evidence, the browser history showing months of research into untraceable poisons, the secret life insurance policies, the financial motive, and the defendant's own recorded words threatening his wife. By the end of this trial, you will have no doubt that DeAndre Richardson is guilty of felony murder and attempted murder, and you will deliver the only just verdict, guilty on all counts." Marcus Thompson stood for the defense, his voice smooth and reassuring. "Members of the jury, the prosecution wants you to believe that my client is some kind of movie villain, a calculating killer who planned an elaborate murder. But the truth is far simpler and far more tragic. This was a terrible accident. DeAndre Richardson loved his wife. He still loves her. On their anniversary, he tried to do something special by cooking her favorite meal. Somehow, tragically, that food became contaminated. Perhaps the lobster was spoiled. Perhaps there was cross-contamination in the kitchen. Perhaps someone else had access to that food and tampered with it. What we know for certain is that DeAndre Richardson had no motive to harm his wife. He has a successful career, makes an excellent salary, and would lose everything in a divorce. The prosecution will try to make you believe that life insurance policies are evidence of murder, but wealthy people carry large policies all the time. It's responsible financial planning, nothing more. He walked toward the jury box, making eye contact with each juror. And yes, DeAndre made mistakes. He had an affair which he deeply regrets. He said things in anger when his wife accused him of attempted murder that sounded bad out of context. But making mistakes doesn't make someone a murderer. The prosecution's case is built on circumstantial evidence, speculation, and the word of a wife who admits she was having marital problems with my client. Ladies and gentlemen, when you've heard all the evidence, you'll see that there is reasonable doubt everywhere in this case, and where there is reasonable doubt, you must acquit. The first witness was Detective Patterson. She walked the jury through the investigation, the 911 call, the scene at the house, the forensic evidence. When we tested the lobster bisque, we found extremely high levels of ethylene glycol, commonly known as antifreeze. The concentration was approximately 400 milliliters mixed into roughly 2 liters of soup. This is a lethal dose, far beyond what could be accidental contamination. She pulled up photos on the courtroom screen, showing the kitchen, the soup pot, the bowl Mrs. Alicia had eaten from. We also searched the defendant's computer and phone. His browser history showed 47 separate searches related to poisoning over a 3-month period. He researched antifreeze specifically, how it affects the human body, how long it takes to kill someone, whether it can be detected in autopsy, and even how to act bereaved at a funeral. Thompson cross-examined her aggressively. Detective Patterson, isn't it true that anyone could have accessed Mr. Richardson's computer? His wife had the password, correct? Yes, but... And isn't it true that you found no fingerprints on the antifreeze container itself? The container was wiped clean, which is itself suspicious. Please just answer yes or no. No fingerprints, correct? Correct, but... So you have no physical evidence directly linking my client to the poison, do you? Detective Patterson's jaw tightened. We have overwhelming circumstantial evidence, his research history, his motive. That wasn't my question. No physical evidence linking him to the actual poison, yes or no? Not fingerprints, no, but... Thank you, Detective. No further questions. The forensic toxicologist, Dr. Sarah Chen, testified next about exactly how Mrs. Alicia died. Her testimony was graphic and heartbreaking. Mr. Martinez sobbed quietly as Dr. Chen described his wife's final hours, the organ failure, the pain, the suffering. Antifreeze poisoning is one of the most painful ways to die. It causes acute kidney failure, metabolic acidosis, and neurological damage. Mrs. Martinez would have experienced severe abdominal pain, seizures, and ultimately died when her heart stopped due to the toxic buildup in her system. If she had received treatment within the first few hours, she might have survived, but by the time she reached the hospital, too much damage had been done. When it was the prosecution's turn to question me, I walked to the witness stand on shaking legs. DeAndre watched me the entire time, his eyes boring into me, trying to intimidate me. But I looked past him to Mrs. Martinez's family and drew strength from them. Nicole Hampton guided me through my testimony gently. Mrs. Richardson, please tell the jury about the morning of your 5th anniversary. I took a deep breath and told them everything. The unusual behavior from DeAndre, how desperate he was for me to eat that specific bowl of soup, how his face changed when Mrs. Alicia ate its soup, his whispered words, "Why didn't you eat it?" The jury leaned forward, absorbed in every word. "And why didn't you eat the soup that morning?" Hampton asked. I was 12 weeks pregnant and suffering from severe morning sickness. The smell of the rich seafood made me nauseous. I couldn't eat it, so I offered it to Mrs. Alicia rather than waste it. Had you told your husband about the pregnancy at that point? No, I was planning to surprise him with the news that evening at dinner. I had an ultrasound photo in my purse that I was going to give him. My voice broke. I thought a baby would bring us closer. I had no idea he was planning to kill me and our child. Hampton let that statement hang in the air. Mrs. Richardson, did you know about the 3 life insurance policies your husband had taken out on your life? No, I thought I had signed one joint policy. I didn't know there were 3 separate life insurance policies on just me, totaling $6 million, all with him as the sole beneficiary. And combined with your $4 million inheritance from your grandmother, how much would your husband have received if you had died? $10 million. A murmur went through the courtroom. Hampton pulled up the insurance documents on the screen. These policies were all taken out within 6 months of your grandmother's death. Did you find that timing significant? Yes, my grandmother died and left me my entire estate. Within weeks, my husband started taking out these massive life insurance policies on my life. Looking back now, I can see he was setting up his plan.
Marcus Thompson's cross-examination was brutal. He tried to paint me as a paranoid, jealous wife who jumped to conclusions. Mrs. Richardson, isn't it true that you and your husband were having marital problems? We were distant, yes, but I didn't know why until I learned about his affair. And you admit you were suspicious of him even before the poisoning incident. I felt something was off, yes, but I never suspected. Just yes or no, please. You were suspicious. Yes. And isn't it possible that your suspicions colored your interpretation of innocent events? That your husband's desire for you to eat the meal he'd prepared was just the behavior of a loving spouse who wanted his wife to enjoy his cooking? No, it wasn't innocent. His face when Mrs. Alicia ate it. You've already testified about his face. Let me ask you this. Did your husband ever physically harm you during your marriage? No, but ever threaten you with violence before this alleged incident? Not explicit threats, but yes or no, Mrs. Richardson. No explicit threats, but his behavior. Thank you. So we have a man with no history of violence who supposedly decided to commit murder out of the blue. Does that seem likely to you? People can hide who they really are, I said firmly. My husband hid his affair for over a year. He hid his gambling debts, his resentment of my inheritance, his mistress, his plans. He's very good at lying. Thompson's expression darkened. Gambling debts? This is the first we're hearing of gambling debts. I smiled slightly. Nicole Hampton and Detective Patterson had helped me save this revelation for maximum impact. Yes, after the arrest, I got access to our financial records. DeAndre has been gambling online and losing badly. Over the past year, he racked up nearly $200,000 in gambling debt to some very dangerous people. That's another reason he needed money fast. The inheritance and life insurance would have paid off those debts with plenty left over. The jury looked at DeAndre with new interest. This added another layer of motive, another reason he'd be desperate for cash. Thompson tried to recover. Do you have proof of these alleged deaths? Yes. Bank statements, credit card bills, emails from collection agencies. The prosecution has all of it. Hampton smiled from her table. This was going exactly as we'd planned. The most damaging testimony came from DeAndre's co-worker, a man named James Crawford, who had worked in the same investment firm for 5 years. James was nervous, clearly not wanting to be there, but he told the truth. About 2 months before the poisoning, DeAndre came to my office and closed the door. He seemed stressed, agitated. He asked me if I knew anyone who could get him something untraceable, something that would cause a medical emergency that looked natural. I asked him what he meant, and he said he had a problem that needed to disappear and make it look like an accident. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel for order. James continued. I told him I couldn't help him with anything illegal and he should leave my office. He laughed it off, said he was just joking, testing my reaction. But he wasn't joking. I could see it in his eyes. He was serious. Thompson jumped up. Objection. The witness is speculating about my client's state of mind. Sustained, the judge said. The jury will disregard the witness's opinion about the defendant's seriousness. But the damage was done. The jury had heard that DeAndre had actively sought help in making someone disappear. Hampton rested the prosecution's case with a flourish. The defense called their witnesses, mostly character witnesses who said DeAndre was a good man, a respected banker, a pillar of the community. His mother testified through tears that her son would never hurt anyone, that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. But Thompson made a crucial mistake. He put DeAndre on the stand. DeAndre was confident, too confident, thinking he could charm the jury the way he'd charmed me, Jasmine, his co-workers, everyone. He denied everything, called me paranoid and vengeful, claimed the poisoning was either an accident or a setup. My wife wanted out of the marriage but didn't want to split assets. She needed me to look guilty so she could divorce me and keep everything. This whole case is her elaborate revenge. Hampton's cross-examination destroyed him. She pulled up the recording of his phone call to me, the one where he'd tried to get me to drop the charges. His voice played through the courtroom speakers. Think about our child growing up without a father. Think about the shame. Or you could give me another chance, drop the charges, and we'll be a family. Hampton paused the recording. Mr. Richardson, if you were innocent, why would you need your wife to drop charges? Why not fight to clear your name? I just wanted to preserve our family. Or did you want her to drop charges because you knew the evidence would convict you? She played more of the recording, his angry outburst. That money should be mine. I earned it. Mr. Richardson, you said the money should be yours. What money were you referring to? I meant our mayoral assets, community property. But your wife inherited that money before you married, and Georgia is not community property state. That money was never legally yours, was it? No, but in a marriage. So when you said you earned it, you meant you earned it by being married to her, that her inheritance was something you felt entitled to. DeAndre was trapped, stammering, his smooth facade cracking. I just meant that I supported her, helped her business grow. By gambling away $200,000 and having an affair, that's support? The jury was leaning forward now, seeing DeAndre for what he really was. Hampton went for the kill. Mr. Richardson, yes or no, did you research antifreeze poisoning on your computer? Long pause. Yes, but yes or no, Mr. Richardson? Yes. And yes or no, would you have received $10 million if your wife had died? He looked at the jury, seeing the condemnation in their eyes. Yes, he whispered. No further questions, Hampton said with satisfaction. The closing arguments were passionate on both sides, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours before returning with their verdict. I sat in the courtroom, Keisha holding my hand on one side, Detective Patterson on the other, as the foreperson stood to read the verdict. In the case of the state of Georgia versus DeAndre Richardson, on the count of felony murder in the death of Alicia Martinez, we find the defendant guilty. Mrs. Martinez's family erupted in tears and applause. The judge banged his gavel for order. On the count of attempted murder of Shanice Richardson, we find the defendant guilty. I closed my eyes and felt tears stream down my face. Justice. Finally, justice. DeAndre's face went white. He looked at me one last time, and this time I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later, and DeAndre was remanded to custody immediately. As the bailiffs handcuffed him and led him away, he shouted back at me, "You'll regret this. You've destroyed our family. That child will grow up knowing what you did to me." "No," I called back, my voice strong and clear. "Our child will grow up knowing I protected them from a murderer. Goodbye, DeAndre." At sentencing, the judge showed no mercy. "Mr. Richardson, you committed one of the most heinous acts imaginable. You murdered an innocent woman and attempted to murder your pregnant wife for money. You showed no remorse, no humanity, no conscience. I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Alicia Martinez, and an additional 30 years for the attempted murder of Shanice Richardson, to run consecutively. You will spend the rest of your life in prison, alone and forgotten." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed me, but I only made one statement. Justice was served today, not just for me, but for Mrs. Alicia Martinez, a wonderful woman who died because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her family has suffered an unimaginable loss. I hope this verdict brings them some measure of peace. As for me and my baby, we're moving forward. We're safe now, and we're going to build a life full of love and trust. Everything by marriage wasn't. Thank you. I drove back to Keisha's apartment, hand on my belly, feeling my daughter kick. Yes, I'd found out it was a girl, a perfect little girl who would never know her father, and that was fine with me. She would know love, safety, and strength. She would know what it means to stand up for yourself and fight for justice, and she would never, ever settle for a man who didn't treat her with the respect and love she deserved.
6 months after the trial, I gave birth to my daughter on a warm spring morning at Northside Hospital. I named her Alicia Grace Richardson, after the woman who had unknowingly saved my life and given hers in my place. When they placed that tiny, perfect baby in my arms, with her dark curls and bright eyes, I cried tears of joy and grief mixed together. Joy for this new life, this second chance I'd been given. Grief for the marriage I'd lost, the man I thought I knew, and the woman who should have been alive to meet my daughter. Mrs. Alicia would have loved this baby, would have fussed over her and spoiled her with homemade Jamaican treats. Instead, she was gone, buried in a cemetery in Stone Mountain, and all I could do was honor her memory by giving my daughter her name. Keisha stood beside my hospital bed, holding my hand and crying just as hard as I was. She's perfect, Shanice. Absolutely perfect. And that name is beautiful. Mrs. Alicia would be so honored. I looked down at little Alicia's face and whispered, "You're safe now, baby girl. Mama's got you. Nobody will ever hurt you. I promise." The Martinez family came to visit me in the hospital, bringing flowers and gifts for the baby. Mr. Roberto, now a widower trying to navigate life without his beloved wife, held my daughter with gentle hands and tears in his eyes. "She has Alicia's spirit," he said softly. "I can feel it. My wife lives on in this precious child. Thank you for this honor, for giving her this name. It means everything to our family." We all cried together, this strange family bound by tragedy and survival. The Martinez children, Maria, Carlos, and Sofia, became like siblings to me, checking on me regularly, helping with the baby, making sure I wasn't alone. They had every right to hate me, to blame me for their mother's death, but instead they embraced me and my daughter with open arms. "Our mother didn't die for nothing," Maria told me one day as we sat in my new apartment in Buckhead, watching baby Alicia sleep in her crib. "She died protecting you and this baby. That's who she was, always protecting others, always putting herself last. We miss her every single day, but knowing that her death saved 2 lives gives us comfort. You're alive, this baby is alive, and that monster is in prison where he belongs. Mama would be satisfied with that outcome." I had sold the Decatur house, unable to live in the place where DeAndre had tried to murder me. Every room held memories that were now poisoned, tainted by the knowledge of his betrayal. I used part of my inheritance to buy a smaller but beautiful condo in a secure building with 24-hour security. I wasn't taking any chances. Even though DeAndre was locked away for life, I still had nightmares about him escaping, coming for me and the baby. Detective Patterson had assured me that escape was impossible, that he was in a maximum security facility, but the fear lingered. My catering business had actually grown after the trial. The publicity, while unwanted, had brought attention to my company. People wanted to support the woman who had survived and fought back. Within a year, I had to hire 3 additional staff members to keep up with demand. I renamed the company Alicia's Kitchen in honor of Mrs. Martinez, and 10% of all profits went to a scholarship fund in her name for young Latina women pursuing careers in hospitality. It felt right, turning something so dark into something positive. Jasmine reached out to me about a year after the trial. She sent a letter, not daring to call or visit in person. In it, she apologized profusely for her role in the destruction of my marriage, even though she hadn't known about the murder plot. She told me she'd gone to therapy, ended all contact with DeAndre, and was trying to rebuild her life and learn to spot red flags in relationships. She didn't expect forgiveness, she wrote, but wanted me to know she was truly sorry and that she thought about me and baby Alicia often. I wrote back, surprising myself. I told her I didn't condone what she'd done, sleeping with a married man, but I understood she had been manipulated just like I had. I told her DeAndre was good at finding vulnerable people and exploiting them, and that she shouldn't let one mistake define her whole life. We would never be friends, but I could offer her forgiveness and wish her well. It felt good to let go of that anger, to not carry it around like a weight anymore. I had enough to deal with as a single mother without adding the burden of hatred. On Alicia's first birthday, I threw a big party and invited everyone who had helped me survive that terrible year. Detective Patterson came with his wife and kids. The Martinez family brought enough food to feed an army. Keisha, of course, was there, having moved into the condo next to me so she could help with the baby. Even some of the jurors came, wanting to see how the baby they'd helped save was doing. As I watched my daughter smash her face into her first birthday cake, laughing and covered in frosting, I felt overwhelming gratitude. A year ago, I was supposed to be dead. DeAndre had planned it all out, researched it, prepared it. That poisoned soup should have killed me. But fate, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, had intervened. Mrs. Alicia's hunger saved my life and my daughter's life, and now here we are, surrounded by love, safe and happy, while DeAndre rotted in prison. I had won, not because I was smarter or stronger, though I'd found strength I didn't know I had. I'd won because I chose to trust my instincts, to listen to that little voice that said something was wrong, to not drink that glass of milk he'd offered me later, to not dismiss my suspicions as paranoia. I'd won because I had people who loved me and fought for me, and I'd won because the truth, no matter how ugly, always comes to light eventually. That night, after all the guests had gone home and baby Alicia was asleep in her crib, I sat on my balcony looking out at the Atlanta skyline. My phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from the prison system, an automated message I'd signed up for. Inmate DeAndre Richardson attempted to contact you via prison mail. This message was blocked per your request. You remain on the no contact list. I deleted it without second thought. DeAndre no longer existed in my world. He was a ghost, a bad memory, a cautionary tale I would one day tell my daughter when she was old enough to understand. I would tell her about the importance of trusting yourself, of not ignoring red flags, of knowing your worth. I would tell her that love should never hurt, should never make you feel unsafe, should never require you to sacrifice your well-being. And I would tell her about Mrs. Alicia, the brave woman she was named after, who died so we could live. 2 years after the trial, I met someone new. His name was Marcus, a gentle architect who came to one of my catering events and struck up a conversation. He was patient, kind, and most importantly, transparent. He didn't push for a relationship, didn't rush me, didn't mind that I had a daughter and a traumatic past. He let me set the pace, respected my boundaries, and slowly, carefully, I let him into my life. On our 5th date, I told him the whole story. I expected him to run, to decide I had too much baggage, but instead he took my hand and said, "That must have been terrifying. I'm so sorry you went through that, and I'm grateful you survived. Otherwise, I never would have met you." That was when I knew he was different. He didn't see me as damaged goods or a victim. He saw me as a survivor, a strong woman who had been through hell and come out the other side. We took things slow, very slow. I wasn't ready to rush into anything, and he understood that. But eventually, after a year of dating, I introduced him to Alicia. Watching him interact with my daughter, seeing how gentle and patient he was with her, I felt something I thought I'd never feel again. Hope. Hope that maybe I could have a real partnership, a real family, built on honesty and trust instead of lies and manipulation. 3 years after DeAndre's conviction, I did something I never thought I'd do. I visited him in prison. Not because I wanted to, but because my therapist suggested it might give me closure. I needed to look him in the eye, see him powerless and caged, and reclaim any remaining pieces of myself that still feared him. The visiting room was cold and institutional, smelling of disinfectant and despair. When they brought DeAndre out, I barely recognized him. Prison had not been kind. He'd lost weight, gained scars, and had a haunted look in his eyes that suggested he'd learned the hard way that charm and manipulation don't work on hardened criminals. When he saw me, he tried to smile, that old familiar smile, but it looked broken, desperate. "Shanice, you came. I knew you would. I knew you still cared." "I don't care about you, DeAndre," I said calmly. "I came here to see for myself that you're where you belong, to remind myself that the monster from my nightmares is locked away and can't hurt me anymore." His face hardened. "I'm not a monster. I made mistakes. I was desperate. Those gambling debts. You don't understand the pressure I was under. You tried to murder me and our daughter. That's not a mistake. That's evil. I would have taken care of you after," he insisted, his delusions stunning. "The insurance money would have set you up for life. You would have been fine." "I would have been dead, DeAndre. Dead. How would I have been fine?" He had no answer for that. We sat in silence for a moment, and then he leaned forward. "How is she? The baby? My daughter?" "She's not your daughter," I said firmly. "You gave up that right when you tried to kill her. Her name is Alicia, and she's perfect and happy and loved, and she will never know you. I made sure your parental rights were terminated. You have no claim to her." The pain in his eyes was real, maybe the only genuine emotion I'd ever seen from him. "You took my child from me." "No, you took yourself from her when you chose money over her life. This is your doing, DeAndre. All of it. You destroyed your own life." I stood to leave. "Goodbye. I won't be coming back." "Shanice, wait," he called out desperately. "I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I think about it every day. What I did, what I lost. I was stupid and greedy and I ruined everything. Please, just tell her about me someday. Tell her I'm sorry." I paused at the door and looked back at him one last time. I'll tell her the truth, that her father was a man who valued money more than love, who tried to hurt people who trusted him, and who paid the price for his choices. And then I'll tell her that she comes from survivors, from strong women who fight back, who protect what matters. She'll learn from your mistakes what kind of person never to become. I walked out of that prison and never looked back. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and cried, not for DeAndre, but for the woman I used to be, the naive girl who thought love conquered all. That woman was gone, burned away by betrayal and rebuilt stronger. The woman I was now knew that love without trust is nothing. Love without respect is nothing. Love that makes you feel unsafe is not love. I drove home to my daughter, who was waiting with Keisha, probably covered in whatever craft project they'd been working on. I scooped her up, breathing in her baby shampoo smell, and whispered, "Mama loves you so much, Alicia Grace. You're my whole world, my second chance, my miracle, and I promise you I will always protect you, always choose you, always make sure you know your worth." 5 years have passed from that terrible anniversary morning. I'm now happily engaged to Marcus, who adopted Alicia and loves her like his own. We're planning a small wedding for next spring. My catering business has expanded to 3 locations across Atlanta. The Martinez family remains close, and baby Alicia calls Mr. Roberto abuelo, which makes him cry happy tears every time. Mrs. Alicia's scholarship fund has sent 12 young women to culinary school. And DeAndre? I never think about him anymore. He exists only as a lesson, a chapter in my past that taught me invaluable truths about trust, intuition, and survival. So what did I learn from all of this? I learned that when your gut tells you something is wrong, listen. I learned that love should make you feel safe, not afraid. I learned that greed can turn people into monsters, but it can never win against truth and justice. I learned that tragedy can bond strangers into family, and that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead to the most beautiful transformations. Most importantly, I learned that I am stronger than I ever imagined. I survived attempted murder, fought for justice, and built a beautiful life from the ashes of betrayal. And if you're listening to this story and relating to any part of it, if you feel unsafe in your relationship, if something feels wrong but you can't quite name it, please trust yourself. Get help. Reach out to friends, family, or organizations that support survivors. You deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve real love. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Drop a comment below telling me what city you're watching from, and if you have your own survival story, I'd love to hear it. Remember, you are stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and you deserve a love that heals you, not one that hurts you. Until next time, stay safe, trust your instincts, and know that better days are always possible. This is Shanice, and this is my story of survival.